Yeah.
I got a rough fundraiser that we did when I was like a freshman or something like that. We had a slave auction.
Shut the fuck up.
That's what they called it. And like
No
all of the
way.
high school kids like went up on stage and they would auction them off to people in the congregation. Like they would.
Oh, and you would like have to go like mow people's lawns or clean out their attics and stuff like that.
Yeah, I had to like tear down a shed.
Hey everybody, welcome to another episode of Growing Up Christian. I'm Sam.
And I'm Casey.
And it is, 4 days before Christmas.
It's coming up.
Yeah, dude, Christmas is so wild for me this year with 4 kids to shop for. Last year it was 3. And and now, oh man. No, this is Byron's... Yeah, this is his second year with us now. He's been with us for 2 years. So he can, which I guess would make, so this is his second Christmas. So last year was 3. I just played that out. I had to work through that out loud for everybody. It's not that hard. But time, it doesn't exist. It doesn't move the same way it used to. I don't know how to process it. So we're, and now this year we have 4 kids to shop for. So it's been different, but I'm also acting like I've done anything. And I'm a pretty typical shitty dad in that way. I didn't do a lot of the Christmas, and by a lot, I mean basically none of
it. Really?
Yeah.
Well, I guess you run in so many different directions.
We would often, my wife has most of the ideas, right? She thinks of stuff all year round. Oh my God, the kids would love this. And she keeps a running list and she gets really excited about it. I get stressed out about everything, which is another reason. I mean, that's not an excuse for to take a back seat on this kind of shit. But this year, what my wife did was her and a friend went out one day and literally just was gone all day long. This store, that store, they hit up every store they could think of, every store they wanted to go to, and knocked out almost the entire of their Christmas shopping. And they had a blast because they were together and hung out for the day, and I just got shit done around the house. So it worked great for me this year. There's a few things, there's a few things I have to take care of. Come on. I don't do nothing, Me and my siblings, we get a swap going on. So I had to figure out something for someone in my family and my
somebody
dad.
Getting a Turbo Man.
Yeah. I bought some, I don't think the person I bought it for does not listen. I bought some Captain Cecil's coffee as a gift. Give the
boom.
I'm plugging away at our sponsor already with I don't even have to. I was on my own volition.
I feel like if I had kids, I would have to really put some rules in place for Christmas, because I just for April, I just buy stuff and buy stuff and buy stuff and buy stuff and buy stuff. I know so many things.
You'd be a good sugar daddy.
Oh man, I would be.
God forbid something happened to April in 10, 15, 20 years, whatever, as an untimely death. Sorry, April. You're just, now you're in your 50s. Dude, you would be the best sugar daddy.
Just find some young 20-somethings. Young buck.
Yeah. Young 20-somethings, maybe still in college, needs a place to party on the weekends. I mean, I could see that going well for you. You have options.
Maybe so.
I don't think anything's going to happen in April, but you have options given your personality type.
Is sugar daddy a thing on Christian Mingle, or have they not ventured into that yet?
I don't. As long as there's no premarital sex involved, I think you're okay.
It just expenditures.
Yeah, you just buy girls, which is some people's thing. Isn't it? Is that some people's thing? Where it's not sexual, but they just get off to buying stuff for people.
Dude, we had a guy for a bit. April had a guy for a bit, and very not really any contact with this dude. He just liked buying her stuff. So she had an Amazon list, all those chicks have an Amazon list.
Oh yeah, the wish list.
He would he just buy stuff off of it constantly. Like he bought us I keep saying us. I don't think I was part of the giving part of it, but
Dude, you know what? He saw in some pictures a reflection on maybe on some glasses or something. He sees you in the background, he's enhancing all up on it, and he sees you, and he's like, I kind of like this guy too.
Yeah, you know what this guy'd like? A PS4.
Yeah.
And he did. He sent us a PS4.
No way, dude. That's nuts.
Oh, yeah. He bought her a whole bunch of different figurines and stuff. There's constantly people buying her or a friend Sophie or something gifts. Not so much April anymore. She hasn't had that in a while, but dude, I'm like,
I have a few things I want that I could throw on that list for.
I was going to say, man, I'd add some stuff like, you know what you need is a new scope.
Yeah. Dude, if you want to throw another PS4 up on that list, I mean PS5 up on that list, just see what happens. I mean, if you get it, just send it my way. If you don't, I mean, water under the bridge. I'm not going to be mad at you.
Tell April, like, man, the new PlayStation's out. It's time to get flirty.
Yeah, put up one of every color. Who gives a fuck? They're all those brand new colors looking sexy.
Yeah, no, I spent like a good 2.5 hours yesterday wrapping presents.
Oh, I thought you were going to say a dollar amount. I thought you were going to tell us exactly how much money you spent. Come on.
Oh no, that would be real douchey, wouldn't it? Yeah, dude, that would probably make me stressed to figure out the actual amount. Dude, Amazon makes it so easy now. Like,
oh my god, it's crazy, and it all goes to your credit card.
Adding. Oh yeah, it's like
so you just pay it off a little
stuff.
Bit. Yeah, I got a bonus. That's gonna go away. Last week I made the announcement that I'm going back to school for school adjustment counseling, so I will be in a school system. You don't get bonuses in the school system, but for now, when I work in retail in the corporate world, I do sometimes, depending on the year. Good year, got a bonus. Love that. That's the best feeling, dude, because it's not one of those companies. This isn't Christmas vacation level bonus where you expect that as part of your salary. This is like, do I get it? Do I not? We'll see. And that makes Christmas feel so much better. Like that comes in and you go, that's Christmas. Like I don't feel that deficit anymore. It's the best feeling ever. And then January comes and you get your tax returns. They get that extra child tax credit going on right now. So that's like second Christmas for me, dude.
Man, you just cashing checks all year long.
Fucking call me the rubber band, man. Dude, one thing that I was thinking about recently, because so my son loves, like most young children, loves dinosaurs. So dinosaurs are different than when we were kids, right? I mean, our introduction to dinosaurs was Jurassic Park, probably. Yeah. I mean, obviously we knew about dinosaurs before that. Land Before Time. We're not total novices. If you didn't watch Land Before Time, you're a bitch.
We had to put my parents had to take Land Before Time away because if there was a character in a movie that was like snobby or mean, my sister would start acting like that character and using the lines from the movie. So there was a few movies that got like put up because Shelby
I thought it was going to be the millions of years they talk about at the beginning because that's what almost did it for me.
Yeah, but that poison in your house.
So we've gotten my son a bunch of books on dinosaurs, and we got a couple more, for him for Christmas. And you look through them, and we learned so many wrong things about dinosaurs, dude. Velociraptors were like the size of chickens, barely bigger than a chicken. Yeah, dude, and probably had feathers.
I thought they were like 6 feet tall.
No. You can look that shit up right now while I'm talking.
I definitely remember hearing Velociraptor stood like 6 feet tall.
So that I was like, that has to be false in one of these books. And then I was listening to a podcast called Science Versus. It's a great podcast. I've learned a lot through that podcast. I love it. And you got something to say? You verified?
Yeah.
Am I right?
Yeah. According to Britannica.com, it says Velociraptor was a smaller Deinonychus, reaching a length of only 6 feet and perhaps weighing no more than 100 pounds. Okay, so it was 6 feet long, but does that mean like head to tail?
It does, but that seems like a stretch based
I
on
think
what
you are
I've learned.
spreading
No,
misinformation.
I'm not. So in this episode of Science Versus, I verified what I had learned in my son's books, and that a lot of these dinosaurs, because that's where birds came from, a lot of them they think were feathered. So now a lot of the illustrations for dinosaurs, they have like feathers on them, which is so strange. But yeah, velociraptors, not that big, oversized chick, not the same size as chicken. They like oversized chickens, but nonetheless, because the podcast episode was about resurrecting these things. Like if you can you get dino DNA like in Jurassic Park or whatever? And you can't. There's really like the idea of it being held in amber. The DNA will still break down in the amber. They talked about that, but the guy that they talked to was someone that was like his knowledge was used to help frame the Jurassic Park movies, and it mentioned to Steven Spielberg that that's not what velociraptors are like. And he goes, yeah, but that's what's going to make it fun and cool. Like he wasn't going for accuracy. Like even the, that spitter dinosaur in Jurassic Park that kills Dennis Nedry.
Yeah.
That thing wasn't real.
That's
like,
nice. Gotta go.
There was no like dinosaur that's like an amalgamation of dinosaurs, and I don't really know that anything spat that goo out. So anyway, we learned a lot of stuff about dinosaurs that came from Jurassic Park. So that was a little bit of an embellishment, but there's also been so many dinosaurs discovered because after Jurassic Park came out, so many people loved it that like, there was a boom in people who became archaeologists or paleontologists, people who became paleontologists. So I guess northern China maybe is where they found a ton of dinosaurs. But so now I go through you go through these books for kids, and it's just I can't pronounce any of the names. There's so many. They all look different than I ever thought dinosaurs did. They're like, there's a lot of similarities, but and the ones that are more bird-like are feathered. I don't know, man.
I feel like you got to use Land Before Time dinosaur shorthand to be like, that's a sharp tooth. Yeah. That's a three-horn. That's a flyer. That's a swimmer.
No kid, dude, because T-Rex was like the big, that when we were kids, it was like the T-Rex. That was the big one that killed everything. There was so many variations of big dinosaurs like that. There's a TV show, like a Jurassic World TV show for kids. It's animated.
Oh, so yeah, that's been popping up.
It's fucking dope, dude. Me and my wife like watching that with the kids. It's it's really good. But they bring in like, I don't know, a lot of dinosaurs that are actual dinosaurs. And I'm like, God, so they'll come up and I'm like, I'm Googling that. That's bullshit. And it's not like they bring in a lot of actual, what I guess, I don't know that they found entire skeletons of it or full complete fossils of a lot of these. I think there's some speculation when it comes to piecing dinosaurs together. But I don't know.
Yeah, I remember reading or hearing about these this speculation in my creation studies class.
Yeah.
It's like quote unquote transitional fossils.
Yeah, that's where dinosaurs didn't have feathers because that's not what birds came from. We get it.
They can have feathers. That's fine. Birds aren't real. Dinosaurs aren't real.
Yeah, birds aren't real.
How would they fit on the ark?
One of the things that is also crazy, dude, is so in that podcast episode when they're talking about trying to bring back dinosaurs, the other thing that came up was resurrecting the woolly mammoth.
That's actually a legitimate thing, right?
Yeah, kind of. I didn't realize that the woolly mammoth didn't live as long ago as I thought they did. I feel like I have it in my mind that they were like, but obviously humans
like 12,000 years ago, right?
Yeah.
So there's a guy I listened to a couple of podcasts with, and I feel like he's maybe a bit of a pseudoscientist, but he makes a fun case for his ideas. But his name's Grant Hancock, and he's a big advocate of this thing called like the Elder Dryas extinction event, where they think his theory is that like somewhere around 10 or 12,000 years ago, like a comet or a asteroid hit the planet and like drastic, like nuclear winter. And I mean, because it's like a huge percentage of the land animals and stuff died like right around that time period, including the woolly mammoth.
Okay.
So I don't know. It's a whole thing that I don't totally understand or can explain. It may not be true, but it's fun to think about.
Dude, it's hard to think about mass extinction events. Like, I'll be honest, when it comes to, so as a kid, I believed in dinosaurs. I was never taught that dinosaurs aren't real. And I was surprised when I learned that some people were taught that dinosaurs, but as I get older and nothing seems real and it's hard to trust anything, I can truly understand why it's hard for people to believe in dinosaurs. It's crazy. It feels pretend when I think about them because it's like they dominated the world millions of years ago, for millions of years. For millions of years, these things just like walked around fucking up other animals, doing whatever the fuck they wanted. And we live in a time where that doesn't exist. Like, it's like all make believe. Not only that, but nobody really knew they existed for a long time until they started digging up fossils and shit. Like, I don't know. It just feels almost like fantasy. Like dragons. Like, people are like, dragons aren't real. And you're like, I don't know. Why are dragons any less real than fucking dinosaurs?
Well, it's even, I'm with you. And there's a lot of things like that. Like, well, I've talked about it before in here, but we live in like the Flint Hills of Kansas, which is this, like 50-mile wide stretch of rolling grasslands and flint bedrock that stretches from like somewhere in Oklahoma all the way up to Nebraska. It's this huge, beautiful area. It's awesome. We live like right on the edge of it, and Kansas is just covered in fossils.
Yeah.
But I mean, I can literally like walk out my door to the creek, and within like 5 minutes, I can find fossils. But it's all marine fossils. It's all just shells and coral and invertebrates and things. And yeah, it's amazing. Like we have a tendency to save things. So April was like cleaning out her craft room in the basement this week, and she's like, we need to go through our rocks. I'm like, our rocks? She takes me downstairs, and we have like 6 boxes of rocks and fossils and things that we've like taken home from places like idiots. So yeah, but it's weird to think about, like, all of this area was underwater at one point. And I mean, from what the looks of the things that are just laying around in my backyard, it was underwater for a long time,
Yeah, dude, it would have to be in order for the fossils to actually form. I don't know how long fossils take to form. Creation scientists will be. I remember
they all formed
learning
during the flood.
Yeah, no, but I do remember learning that they can form quickly. Like, that was their big thing. It's like, well, they don't always they can form pretty quickly. Like, there's always.
That was the same guy that was like, oil's actually a renewable resource because it's still being made. We don't have to have electric cars.
Yeah, I know.
I've heard that case made a few times.
Things die and they create oil.
Dude, what's really weird is like talking about that like extinction event around that time period and stuff as a woolly mammoth. There was so many weird, bizarre animals that were roaming around at that point. Like there's like a giant sloth, like giant North American sloth or anteater or something like that. There's this thing called a short-nosed bear, which you can look up pictures of it, but
it's like a
supposedly stood like
pig.
They're just like this giant bear. Like they stood like 15 feet tall, standing up, just huge. Dude, I don't know. There's like so many things there. It's North American camels. There was like all sorts of different stuff that just disappeared.
That's so wild. What's kind of interesting is, look, when humans fuck up the ecosystem around them, that's very that makes me feel like it just doesn't. It feels icky. It feels like there's something wrong with that. But there are certain animals that are like going extinct that humans don't necessarily have anything to do with, and people will be really upset about that. Like, oh my God, we need to do something about this. Now, again, if humans are part of the problem, that feels icky. But the idea of certain animals dying out, I guess, I don't know. I don't know if this is, I'm not bothered by it. I don't have an emotional connection to it. Like, what,
really?
Yeah, I don't. I'm sorry. Lions might go extinct in our lifetime. They probably
like,
will.
Eh,
It's
eggnog.
I don't want them to. Now, no, lions going extinct feels icky because like you have those like shitty big game hunter motherfuckers. Like fuck those people. Their fate should be like gladiator games where you just like release them into a den of lions and watch them get torn up. I don't know if I really believe that, but I'm going to stick with it for now. But isn't it weird to think that like like my kids might not know, like they're like, yeah, oh, I've never seen like they could never see a lion. Like nothing's gone extinct in my parents' generation or my grandparents' generation. Like usually the time period it takes for things to go extinct seems longer. Like I don't know anyone who's lived through an animal extinction, but we might be living through one to the point where our grandkids will never see some of the animals we grew up with.
Yeah.
Isn't that weird?
It's terrible to think about. And there's some stuff that I don't know. It's such a weird topic because people get weird about it on both sides. Like some people, it's part of their philosophy that like we're supposed to just dominate the planet and take what we need, and if we can make a buck off of this today, then so be it. But other people are like seem to have this idea that like nature is this magical balance that it's sort of self-sustaining and cares for itself and stuff, which it's not. I mean, nature's brutal. And if one animal all of a sudden has an advantage over another animal, they will kill them into extinction.
Yeah. Right.
But I think about that a lot because, I read a book last year about this time where it's called American Buffalo. It's by Steve Rinella, who fascinating guy, definitely worth looking up. But
I didn't think you read books, Casey. You tricked me. You told me.
I listened to it. It was an audiobook.
Okay.
I use the read figuratively, but he was talking about the American bison and the history of the species and where it all went and stuff. And it's crazy to think, but like the American bison ranged across almost 100% of the continental U.S. I mean, basically everywhere but Hawaii. They were native in Alaska. They were native in, New England. Like they were across the entire country. But there's so many different factors that led to their extinction, mass hunting. Barbed wire fences was a huge part of it because they blocked their migrational routes. I mean, there's just a ton of different things, but I mean, there was herds of like a million animals in some parts of the Midwest. I mean, 150 years ago. It's just wild to think about.
Wild, dude. It is. They were literally everywhere. And now if you want a bison burger, it costs so much more than a fucking regular hamburger. Yeah. So I blame barbed wire fences. Fuck fences. I just blame fences.
Here's what I want. Yeah, exactly. So here's what I want. I want one of you smart young kids to think up a way through like GPS collars or something to eliminate fences almost as a whole. Like think if you could have some sort of GPS collar or something like that on cattle so they could like free range graze and things like that, but they somehow stayed within a given area so you didn't have to have just miles and miles of fences. Because I mean, like right here where I'm at, every single field is fenced in pretty much, and it's,
yeah,
I don't know. It would just be so cool to think about, like, if you opened up those pathways. I mean, maybe we could have free range bisons and stuff again, bison.
But that'd be pretty cool. I'm sure technology will only figure out how to kill more things and fuck things up, though. I think that's the general direction.
That's a grim outlook. We've turned around a lot of extinctions already. I mean, we just need everyone to care about it.
Through a bunch of people who are committed to artificially inseminating other animals.
I've got bald eagles were almost extinct like 30 or 40 years ago, and I have like 4 of them living by my house. I see them almost every day.
I thought you were going to say you have 4 of them taxidermied in your living room or something.
Yeah. I just need them long enough. I need them to stay alive long enough for me to stuff one and put it on my mantle.
There, exactly. I have one more Christmas point because we're, 'tis the season. I have one more Christmas point to make before we close out. And so we're not teaching our kids about Santa. We want them to know the true meaning of Christmas. So we're teaching about how a baby was born only so they could be sacrificed on a tree later on in life. That's what we're choosing to do.
I feel like kids, 20 years from now won't even know about Santa. They'll be hearing the legend of Jeff Bezos. He's delivered more Christmas presents than Santa ever thought about.
Okay. So obviously, I shouldn't say obviously, but I am teaching my kids the whole Santa thing. And what I think is really funny about watching Christmas movies, a lot of them, we watch a lot of, is in real life, grown-ups go through extensive lengths to make sure that kids can believe in Santa and experience the magic of Christmas in that way.
And this is what you're doing.
Yeah. And then in every single Christmas, yes, go ahead. Interrupt me.
It gives you joy to lie to your children, but giving them gifts, nothing?
No, that's, yeah. Okay.
Oh,
you got me.
Clarify.
Yeah. No, I mean, I'm speechless. You got me. So I'm just going to carry on. Every single Christmas movie that has to do with Santa Claus is about grown-ups not believing in Santa. And the kids like being like, no, Santa's real. I believe. And then Santa turns out to be real and the grown-ups are converted to a new religion. Now, I just find that juxtaposition so funny because kids don't pick up on it, right? They're young. They're not noticing. But for every grown-up in real life to like go through such extensive lengths to make sure kids believe in Christmas. And then for every movie they watch, grown-ups are like, kids, Santa's not real. Get over it. It's like that. It's such an imbalance between what they're watching and what they're experiencing. Isn't that weird?
That is funny. Well, it's almost like it's like such a common movie trope for there to be like this really wise and intuitive like 12-year-old. The jaded adults just can't seem to sort out like the problems with their lives and stuff. And then here comes this like teenager who has like really profound things to say. And I always think like, man, that is not the case ever.
No, it's not. Kids aren't that smart. We took my kids to see the new Clifford movie, and that's kind of like that. That's kind of the thing, right? Like the kid is the one pushing everyone to do things better and bigger and love more, and all the adults like, I learned so much from you in the past few days. I owe you a lot. And the kid's like, you should just listen to me. It's like, then the kid like 5 minutes later is like, I don't want to go to school. We're like, you have to. I think it's such a strange dynamic in movies. That is such a trope. The wise kid that gets, especially in holiday movies though. Like it's always like, that's how it is in every holiday movie. Because the kids believe in magic and the mystery of Christmas. So then it's so weird. All the grown-ups end up believing in Santa by the time the movie's over. And we're just like, in real life are like, I don't think I believe in Santa anymore. You're like, shut the fuck up, kid. You're going to ruin it for everybody else. Santa's real, right, kids? Santa's real. Oh, did you hear that? I just heard some jingle bells up on the ceiling. Like, okay.
I mean, it's not the most ridiculous belief. I recently came across a person who is who worships Greek gods.
Okay.
And
those are coming back. We're going backwards in time. Okay.
I was reading this post where this person was basically like, don't disrespect my religion. Don't assume you know things about my faith and all this stuff. And it was about their worship of Greek gods. And I was just reading it like, is this real? This is real. Like, this isn't in jest. This is not an ironic post. Like, this is a real thing like that this person is serious about. So, I mean, I don't know. Worship Santa. Whatever. That's cool.
Take away from the true meaning of Christmas, which is what the fear was for me growing up. That people will, like, if you can't do Santa and Jesus Christ, people won't know what's going on.
Like, Santa told me that the gays can't get married.
My favorite part of Christmas was when Santa was crucified for our sins. No, kid, sorry, you're a little mixed up. Let's set the record straight here.
For Santa so loved you, he was banished to eternal servitude, basically as a UPS man for all of eternity.
And just to pay it forward, he enslaved an entire species of people to make his toys for them for all of eternity.
I wonder if they were from the same place as Oompa Loompas.
Yeah. Hey, I don't think you're allowed to say that word anymore.
Oompa Loompa?
Knock it off! You're going to get us canceled, dude.
Wow. All right, well.
Don't.
Apology to follow.
Yeah. All right. Our guest this week is someone we have been really talking to since we started the podcast. Her name is Amber, and she is great. It was so fun talking to her. Like I said, we've been talking to her just through messaging since we got this thing started. She had our first, well, we get into the story in the podcast, so we're not going to spoil it here, but our first interaction with her was when she messaged us about her experience at a college for a weekend at Liberty, and we've just been going back and forth ever since. So we talked to her for a while, and we did not get into anything she's doing now. No, she is really fucking cool.
If you look at the episode description, she has a very impressive resume, which we don't touch at all in this.
No, I don't know how we did it. It's awful. I'm going to just blame us. We just really fucked up on this one.
We're just having too much fun joking about Shoney's and, Bible camp, all of that kind of stuff.
Yeah, but she is, and we'll throw these in the show notes too, because you might miss it here and want to go back and be like, oh, what was she? What? You might remember us talking about how she's a big. I mean, I would say she's a big deal. And I'm so excited to see like where her career continues to take her, because she's doing some really cool fucking stuff. But she's so she's a social worker. She's a Navy vet. She's the youngest on a board to pick students for military academies like West Point. She became the first Black commander of the Goldsboro American Legion. And so she's also currently in her master's in social work. So one of the things that she works with is that she's really passionate about, that I do wish we got into, because we've talked about, I think when we had Shane Claiborne on, and I feel like it's come up at other times too. When you talk about gun violence, right? You can't talk about gun violence without talking about suicide. And some of the most susceptible people to suicide are veterans. So that's what she is. That's what she does. Like, she works with organizations that work towards ending veteran suicide, which kills 22 vets a day. So she's really doing some cool stuff. On top of that, she is the human resources director for the city of Scranton in Pennsylvania. She's in the mayor's cabinet, and she's the first Black director and the highest ranking Black person in the city. So she is doing really big things. It's so impressive to learn all that really after we talked to her. Was really, it was impressive. I wish we got into what she's going on, because she's got so much. Like, I don't know how she juggles it all. She is clearly doing a lot. She's involved in a lot, and it's important to her to make a difference. And we just spent most of our time joking about the goofy ass world we grew up in, which was a ton of fun. And I think everyone will enjoy this episode, but there's no fucking chance that we're not going to have her back on the podcast to talk all this shit that I just grazed over, because it's worth getting into.
So yeah, if you're not a member of our Discord, you find the link in our social media accounts, all of them. If you're enjoying the podcast, we would really appreciate it if you'd leave us a 5-star review on iTunes. Really helps us with where we're going, and that would be great. And before we get into our conversation with Amber, here's a word from our sponsor, Captain Cecil's.
And before you hear that word from our sponsor, we do have an announcement that we talk about the holiday blend in this ad, and it's just become apparent to us that the holiday blend is sold out. Y'all slept on that shit, and you don't get it now. You fucking slept.
I'm enjoying mine.
Yeah, I have another bag left. I got a bag on deck. I got a bag. Oh, I already mentioned. I bought some for my one of my brothers for Christmas, and they're gonna get to enjoy it. But if you didn't buy it, you're not gonna get to because everyone else bought it and you slept. Anyway,
the exclusiveness of the holiday blend makes it taste that much better. Like I enjoy it just a little bit more, knowing that none of you can have it.
Yeah, every sip is like, oh my god, all these fucking people don't get it. Good on us. We got it. They don't. There are some new. He's got a bunch of new blends coming out. They're actually probably already out. I'm not going to go through them. We'll just have a new ad for them next week, and we'll just build the hype for now, knowing that there's stuff coming out and you don't have it, and you get to hear about it 7 days from.
Okay. Amber Viola, but first, Captain Cecil's. 'Tis the season to be jolly, and nothing makes me more jolly than a great cup of coffee. You know what I'm talking about?
I certainly do, Casey.
So my house this time of year, I turn the heat down at night because I like it to be like a frosty 66. And waking up in the morning, stepping out into the kitchen at 5:30, it's chilly.
You got your long underwear on. You got the flap open in the back, all unbuttoned with your little booty hanging out.
Rosy cheeks, 2 sets, top and bottom.
They look freshly spanked, but it's just getting cold.
My poor pets. Nothing wakes me up better than a cup of hot Captain Cecil's coffee. And, during the fall, I was really into the Knobsk blend. I just got a new shipment in, and I gotta say, the limited edition holiday blend is fantastic. I love it.
Yeah, I gotta say it must be amateur hour in here because you talked about it being a frosty 66, and I set my thermostat to a frosty 62.
That's like a Siberian gulag.
It's cold. You wake up in the morning and you don't want to get out of bed, but you have to. Get your pot of coffee going, and of course, I'm drinking Captain Cecil's. Captain Cecil's donates 10% of all sales to various lighthouse preservation organizations across New England. It's one way for them to make sure that they remain with us for generations. And as a New Englander, that's super important. Lighthouses around here, big deal. They're landmarks. And I know you don't know anything about lighthouses because you don't have them. You just have windmills, the lighthouses of the Midwest.
Yeah, we have like grain elevators. Not quite as scenic, but same thing.
Yeah.
The holidays are right around the corner, and there's no better gift for the coffee lovers in your family than Captain Cecil's. And they're offering a special deal to our lovely listeners. From now until Christmas, you can go to CaptainCecils.com and enter the promo code GrowingUpChristian at checkout for 20% off your order. Now until Christmas, it's a deal you don't want to miss. So go to CaptainCecilsCoffee.com and enter the promo code GrowingUpChristian at checkout for 20% off your order. Happy holidays from me, from Sam, and from Captain Cecil's Coffee.
Hey, everybody. We're back with our guest, Amber. Amber is, she's been a friend of the show since we started. Not technically a friend of the show in the sense that she's been on it before, but we have been talking with Amber since we started this podcast. And we figured it was about time that we hung out with her for an episode and heard about her life. So Amber, thanks so much for joining.
Oh, thank you so much for having me. I'm really excited.
Yeah. So Amber, you find your kindred, you feel like kindred spirits with the podcast because of, you also grew up Christian and you had some interesting experience. Actually, no, you know what we started talking about? The first time I talked to you was about liberty.
Yeah.
I just remembered that. So let's just start with that fun anecdote because you went to a college for a weekend and you chose not to go to Liberty for some pretty interesting.
I did. So I was a junior in high school. I went to a really small Christian school in New Jersey, actually pretty close to Philly, right across the bridge, South Jersey. So it probably was more church school. My class had maybe 10 people in it, if that.
That's like Casey's school.
Yeah.
It was one of those that went from, kindergarten all the way up. And so we were going to Liberty for college for a weekend. I was super excited. It was the first college that I actually was going to go see. And so, of course, the other greats included what is that? The Bob Jones one?
Yeah.
Oh god.
Yeah, no,
Yeah.
Bob Jones. It's just Bob Jones University.
It's
the
Bob
heavy
Jones
hitters
University,
are BJU,
Messiah,
yeah,
and there was one
Pensacola,
more.
Pensacola.
Yeah.
The classics.
So we go to the class, right? The Big Ten of Christian universities. So we're going down there, and I'm super excited and everything. And we get there, and the people are different. I wouldn't really say friendly. And so I think it was the first day I went to the little classes and stuff because you're supposed to, go see what college life is about. And I was walking around with the girl who was like showing us around. And obviously I'm 17. So my question is about boys, and stuff like that. And she's like, well, you're not allowed to interracially date. And I'm like, I'm sorry. What?
Yeah.
And she's like, yeah, you can't interracially date here. And so then I'm just looking around and I'm like, who would I date then? If I
bunch of Southern white boys.
It doesn't even go to like, this is wrong. My first thing was definitely like, okay, well, who's available? And then she proceeded to tell me about like the 2 black guys that went to the school. And I literally was just like, know what? I'm done. So
competition is heavy, but
I ended up meeting, I guess, some bad kids sorority, and went out that night to some bowling alley and like stayed out past curfew, ended up at people's houses. I slept through the whole morning set of classes the next day. Like,
got the full college experience.
Yeah, and like the leader of our group and stuff was like, oh, what happened? Like, why didn't you? Because on the way home, I was like, I'm not going here. Absolutely not. And everybody's kind of like, what changed your mind? Like, you kind of were all for it. And I told them, and it's such a weird experience when people don't believe you. Like, why would I make that up or anything? And they're like, oh, well, maybe that, maybe they didn't mean it like that or whatever. And I was like, no.
So many different ways to mean that.
So many different ways.
So many. I mean, look, you can't interracially date. Take that how you want.
Take it how you want. Right. And
so
that's
many
how
ways.
She looked at me. She literally was like, she did not even realize that I kind of was upset about it, I guess, or anything. She just said it so in passing. Like, it was just so normal. And I was just like, wow, okay. Yeah, I'm definitely not going to go here.
This person have a Southern accent.
What year was that?
This was 02, 03.
Oh, okay. Okay, so that precedes us by a little bit, but
Only
not
by
very
like
much.
Five
I got
years.
there in 06.
Yeah, I don't think
I thought you guys were there pretty
dating
closely until I don't. When did they change it?
No, they listen. That person was a.
they were ad-libbing.
Look, you had to wear polos to class and you had to wear khaki pants, pleats optional. But the interracial, that person made that up. That person was.
Well, there was a time when it wasn't actually. They changed the rule officially at some point. But I can't remember what
that was way back in 99.
Yeah, I was gonna say I think that was before the 2000s. Probably somewhere in between when they finally let black people into the school.
Right. And when I heard about how Liberty even started, it makes so much sense to me. So
yeah, that was crazy news to me too. Like, I didn't know that until I mean, maybe a year ago. Was the first I'd heard of that.
Yeah, I mean, we already talked about Bob Jones University, but their whole deal was getting they put up a huge stink about forced integration in schools. They're like, no, that's how basically the moral majority got founded was to.
And I went to some Bob Jones elementary schools and stuff.
Really?
Yeah.
How do you recall not fitting in so well? Like, how did that?
I do. I remember being in, I think it was maybe first grade, and some boys didn't want to drink out of the water fountain after me.
God.
And I thought it was like because I had cooties, because I was a girl, and just like little things that I remember looking back on, and I'm kind of like, wow, that was super racist. I got paddled at school because you could still beat kids, and I remember getting paddled at school one day for doing something wrong. I don't even know what I did. And so, yeah, there was just so much wrong with.
How much of your success as an adult do you attribute to that, like, Christian upbringing?
Me and my brother talk about it all the time of like, because when we actually tell people how Christian we grew up, and I think like the three of us, it was kind of fundamentalist, you know? People are like, wow, you're really normal. I'm like, yes, I'm grateful for that every single day, because I could have definitely been really weird. So.
Yeah, we've seen it go both ways. So
well, yep. I was homeschooled too, so I definitely could have ended up real weird. So.
Well, let's go back a little bit and just kind of give us the rundown on like how you came up.
Oh goodness. So I grew up in like a pretty strict Christian household. We went to church every single Sunday and Wednesday, and Bible study and choir practice, and you know, any type of thing that was going on, we were involved in it. So we were just always there. And my mom always had us in like private schools, and they were always relatively small private schools. She wanted us to get a really solid, you know, Christian education with like God as the foundation before science or literature or anything else like that. And
they skimp on the literature a good bit.
Yeah,
I got
definitely
on the science too, for sure. But the amount of people who grew up like us that never read one of the classics is all of them, all of us.
And the only reason I got away with actually reading a lot is because my mom really wanted us to read. So there was times when we only had like Christian books and stuff. God. And like, oh my God, those Christian dating books and stuff. But then I remember I started getting older and I started wanting to read the classics and stuff. And I think she really just was excited that me and my brother really liked to read and everything. So I was homeschooled for a while. So I went to, you know, like those homeschool meetings that they have once a month where you all get together and you hang out with kids and you trade Plum CDs and stuff. And I remember being in like, you know, the homeschooled 4-H, also did Awana throughout like this whole entire time. Everything we did had to be, you know, like Christian based. So any summer camps we went to was a Christian summer camp and stuff, you know. And my mom was in the Army, so we moved around a lot. So anytime we moved around, we would just find a new like church, a new Christian school and stuff. And she would just, you know, put us in that. Okay. So, you know, and I mean, there was times where we would get real strict, where it was like no secular music, you know, no rated R movies, no PG-13 movies if you're not 13 yet.
I wasn't even allowed to watch a lot of PG-13 movies when I was 16.
Neither. Yeah.
It's like of all the things to trust the government on, they're like, their movie rating system's pretty good.
Right. Yeah. Like that was a good threshold for it. And I remember going to like acquire the fire and having to like give up my black nail polish and, you know, my studded belt and, you know, all the stuff that you love, your CDs and movies. And
Acquire the Fire was all about that. They love making kids put all their shit in a pile and burn it.
And I was just thinking, like, who gets this coffin of stuff? Because everything in there is cool and I need it. You know, like I remember like putting my stuff in there, looking to see like what was in there and being upset that I'm going to have to be a kid and scrimp money together again to like rebuy all this stuff.
As soon as you put it in, you're like, this is a mistake. You're like reaching for it. Someone was holding the back of your shirt and you're like, please. No, it was a mistake.
Oh man.
And when you you can't be like the only people who don't go down there, you know? So.
Right.
There's like no greater sin in that time period of your life than just liking something a little too much.
A little too much.
Anything that you love, if you like really like some certain type of music or certain types of movies or whatever it is, it's like if you show too much interest in it, they're like, these Pokemon have got a satanic hold on our children.
Yes. There was this video I just saw going around. Oh, wait, did you
send it to you?
Yeah, you said. I saw like 3 other people posted after I saw it when you sent it to me, but it was a guy doing a whole breakdown on how Pokemon's evil.
And the dude is giving this PowerPoint presentation, and he looks like the cut and paste identical twin of Kenny Powers from Eastbound and Down.
Oh my god!
Got the same hair, all of it.
Oh yeah.
Oh my goodness.
So okay, so you're Christian
in the army.
school. Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead, Sam.
Thank you, Casey. Growing up in the military, with your mom kind of moving around a lot, it's funny because like Christianity really will give you a base, right? Anywhere you go, you can just find a new church. So I feel like that's probably helpful for finding a community as an adult, definitely. But what was that like as a kid, moving around that much? Was it like every year, every few years?
It was normally every few years.
Yeah.
I mean, honestly, you get used to pretty much anything. So I didn't always like it, but it was kind of just the way it was. So
like you knew it was going to happen again.
I knew it was going to happen. So it's just like, all right, let's see where we're going this time.
What all parts of the country did you live in?
It was mostly between Midwest area and then just like the East Coast, like New Jersey and Pennsylvania and stuff.
Okay.
But we'd be in like the boonies, you know, just out there on these military bases and, you know, no other brown people in sight.
My cousin's in
some weird experiences.
My cousin's in the Air Force, and her husband have lived in I think they lived in Hawaii for a minute. They were stationed in Japan for a little while, and then they just moved them to South Central Missouri. It's such a letdown from
yeah, definitely.
I have a cousin who's in the Air Force. Air Force seems like they get a better.
They do. My brother's in the Air Force.
Yeah,
and it's so much better.
They put the Air Force basically in cooler places.
Terrible.
How long were you in the Navy for? Well, we'll get to
8 years.
Okay, I definitely want to hear a little bit about. So you move around. Were you homeschooled? What was that time period? Was that high school, middle school?
It was the end of middle school until 10th grade. So 10th grade, I went back to school, and that's when I went to a small private Christian school. And then I did my senior year in public school.
Oh, okay. Man, that is so many school changes. That's wild.
Oh, I went to, I think overall, I probably went to 10, you know.
Man. So. That little Christian school, do you remember what kind of curriculum they were using?
I don't with that. I actually went to that school on and off for years. So whenever we would move back to an area that was close enough, we would just go back to the same school and stuff. But I remember using PACES when I was homeschooled, and then Bob Jones curriculum for a long time growing up. And I can't remember what curriculum they had, but it was something ridiculous because our history book was just a disaster.
Yeah.
I imagine as a person of color, that is a very skewed version of the
oh my God.
It's the PACES, I mean, they were really laid it on thick with how Christian the South was. And,
yeah.
I specifically remember that.
Actually liked living with us.
I know. I don't even recall really learning about slavery, to be honest. It was there was a time period where we did this. Some slave owners weren't bad, and then they probably have some Bible verses about how you should treat your slaves good or some shit like that. And then you're
somehow it's a lesson on obedience. And
you're okay.
Yeah.
Our whole country went to war over this because you really downplayed how much people don't like.
Right.
So when the war part came, that was like an M. Night Shyamalan twist right there.
That was a footnote. That was a footnote in the whole thing. It was about
it's underneath one of those stories about smoking is actually the Civil War.
I just remember the PACES in high school and stuff when they got to the Civil War, they were they spent a lot of time talking about these wonderful revivals that happened in the Confederate camp.
Oh my God, wait, I remember that.
It was such a weird, I mean, even at the time, as bought in as I was, I remember reading that and being this is strange. Why are we talking about this? Or what a great Christian man, Robert E. Lee.
That's why they named roads after him, gave him statues all the time.
You know what it is it's they give slavery the same treatment that they give God ordering genocide in the Old Testament. It's this was a different time. It's we're done with that. It's over now. Let's not look too closely.
Yeah.
Like, can we go back to that horror? Yeah, because I mean, I just remember when I going through the whole Bible and reading it from cover to cover, because I was a dork and I love to read anything. And having
you do that on
lot
purpose.
of questions. I did it on purpose. I did it on purpose. Twice I did it on purpose, and another time we went through it like as a family, and stuff. But yeah, I was like, I have some questions for you guys regarding some of these things, because none of you have mentioned this, and I read it and it's in here, and we need to talk about it. You know, like, there's some concerning things, some stories that are a little creepy. I don't know, you know, and it really turned me off to it. You know, I think it did the opposite of what, you know, like, I remember one time I was in my room reading my Bible, and my mom comes in, and, you know, she's like in tears because she's like so proud and happy in that moment that I'm like on my own, you know, really digging into the Word of God. And I was just afterwards like, this is ridiculous. And then my whole thing was just kind of like, if we actually maybe did what was in here, or some of y'all maybe read this, maybe I could get on a board with a little bit. But like, sometimes I would be like, I don't think anybody has read this. Like, what are you guys even talking about or doing? And it really made me believe in treating people the right, like, what I got out of it was literally like, I need to be nice to people. Apparently I should love everybody, even if I don't actually like them. And like, I need to help people with my life. And so then being also in Christian schools that were like kicking out my gay friends and stuff. And I was like, this just doesn't seem to me to be what I must have missed that part, you know, of it. So
it's weird, like the contrary things and ideas that you get from that, like the era that we grew up in of Christianity. I feel like it's a time period where like certain ideas were popular and certain ones weren't. And I remember, you guys remember that book Jesus Freaks that DC Talk put out?
The DC Talk book?
Yeah. It's like all martyrdom stories, and it's a lot of like,
that's right. I forgot about
that. The Khmer Rouge showed up to this town, and they asked the pastor where his family was hidden, and he wouldn't tell a lie. He just told them, and then they murdered them all. And I remember like going to my pastor and being like, I don't really understand, like,
because if you would have just stayed home, then, you know, you wouldn't even been there in the first place.
Right. I was like, I guess I just don't get, like, why would he not try to save his family or save the villagers or whatever, and just getting like kind of a weird runaround answer on it and stuff. And
because the Bible said thou shalt not lie. So
I think I was close. Like, I didn't understand like the whole concept of martyrdom. It's like, well, you get martyred when you can't run away anymore, or you're out of bullets.
No, you have to like not run. Yeah. It's like you can't run.
You're supposed to stand firm, okay?
It's there was like a martyrdom fetish growing up. There was because
I would be at youth groups where they would do that weird thing where like they put the fake gun to somebody's head, turn the lights out, and you'd hear like boom, and I was like, this is absolutely insane. We're all gonna have PTSD.
Fucked.
Like, why are we doing this to these kids? And if you ask me a question, and anytime you're in a stressful situation like that, your brain's not even working all the way, you know? So like,
right. You know what I just learned? Do you guys remember? So like with the Columbine shooting, right? The whole story, there was that whole, there was a whole story about the girl who was like, she was asked like, do you believe in God? She said yes. And that's not a true story. I heard
that wasn't true. I did. And I was like, that was a big part of the whole, you know, thing for a while. It was like, you know, you have to, a narrative. I can't remember her name, but they were like, you have to be like this girl.
Yeah.
You know,
and her mom published it in a book. After she knew it was like not true, she's like, I choose to believe that it happened.
Well, and there was something with another girl that was there, and she got wounded, but she lived, and then she contested the story, and people just took a dump on her, apparently.
I think it was a kid of a different faith who said he'd been God. Now, this is what's weird is like growing up in Christianity, I feel like I was always told, like, oh, I believe, people would be like, I believe in God. Hey. It's not about just believing in God. Do you know Jesus Christ is your personal Lord and Savior? lots of people believe in God. Like, and then all of a sudden they just got the biggest fucking boners because this girl said she believed in God. Like that means that two Christians, like they got excited about that, but really like that meant so little to Christians growing up. And they talked about it all the time on how
you have to believe in God. Jesus specifically and the Holy Spirit. You know, you can't
confess her love for Christ.
God. Right, exactly.
So
remember that Michael W. Smith song that they wrote about it?
This
was your time. This was your dance. Lived every moment with nothing to chance.
Oh my God.
Done a lot more singing lately on the podcast.
You have.
I mean, guys, I think my first concert was a Carmen concert. And I almost got trampled. Okay.
The mosh pit got that lit, huh?
Middle-aged ladies getting into it. I remember getting into the doors.
Sounds like a Travis Scott concert. No.
Oh man, but it was pretty crazy. And when I saw that he died, I was like, I felt a little bit sad. I was like, oh my God. Well, then I learned about how he died, and my sympathy went down slightly.
But I don't know if I heard the story.
Well, he had COVID, and I think he was sick.
Oh.
But he wouldn't really do anything to kind of prevent himself from getting sicker because he was already immunocompromised, and he ended up dying of COVID complications. Because I think he was still putting on like concerts and stuff, like whatever they were called. Yeah, yeah.
He just had like a bank of like box fans behind him, just blowing his breath into the crowd. Did you have any Carmen albums?
I didn't personally, but my mom did. And I remember we had this like VHS tape of like all his music videos.
Those are wild.
And and so after he died, I literally was like, well, now I have to take a trip down the rabbit hole and we are going to watch these Carmen videos. And I was into, first of all, they were masterpieces, okay?
They're great.
Cinematic masterpieces.
A self-aware person couldn't make those.
No, absolutely. The delusion was just insane. He really thought he was out here doing it, y'all. Like he was just. What was the budget for these too? Like who? Dude. How much money was this man making?
The one with the like Mission Impossible one. It's like Mission 316, and he's like, it's like 15 minutes long. And
they're all like that long. Oh my God.
It's bad. And then there's like one where he talks to the war. Oh, I don't think I saw that one.
There was like a crusade one that was hands down my favorite. It was like this whole like story thing.
That's an interesting time
It was very interesting, and I'm pretty sure the message wasn't what he thought it was going to be, but it was, yeah.
He's like, I really just want to swing a sword and write it off as a business.
Yeah.
Right. Oh my goodness.
He had a whole armory
to take on the Crusades. That's a sketchy topic. You got to really be a warrior for the cause to put a positive spin on the Crusades.
Oh, it definitely tried.
Yeah, I'm embarrassed to admit that I didn't know. It was hard for me to admit that I didn't know who Carmen was until the news broke that he died. I'd never heard of him.
That's so funny. How did you miss that?
I don't know. My parents listened to a lot of Christian music, but not Carmen. They were like CCM kind of music. So like your Amy Grants, your Caedmon's Calls, I'm sure there's a lot of other ones that I just forgot.
I did. Oh my God. I think I did have an Amy Grant CD.
Remember, did you know God's Property?
God. Oh yes, of course.
What is that one?
That shit slapped. I listened to that a lot.
It was Amy Grant?
No. It was like I was like a God. I don't know. It was like
Kurt Franklin, wasn't it? It was like a gospel hip hop kind of thing. Yeah.
They had that song Stomp.
Yep, it was Kurt Franklin.
Okay, we're gonna. Maybe we won't get sued if we start the episode out with that as the intro music.
Oh my God, yes.
It's like 15-second cutoff or something like that.
Yeah, well, I think it's worth the gamble. I don't think that they're gonna come out.
He got in some hot water not too long ago for like there was like a recording of him like screaming at his son or something
his kid?
like that.
Yeah,
that's right.
Yeah, they're just all the titans are falling.
Oh God. Right.
Okay. A topic that I feel like we have not touched on very much is summer camps. And you said you went to some Christian summer camps?
I did.
In my experience, they're insane. I don't know what yours was like.
Okay, so the summer camp was called King's Kids Camp, and they had it all start with K's. So like as soon as you pull up on the side of the building, it literally said like KKK for it. No. And so that was just one thing.
Stop.
And it was a sleepaway camp. So you were there for a week, you know, and it was like girls and guys. And then when you became teenagers, it was like co-ed or whatever. But I mean, we used to do this thing where you had memorized Bible verses, and it was a competition between like all the campers with who could memorize the most verses in a week. And of course, every time I was there, I won.
Boring.
100%.
The most boring version of summer camp.
It literally was like you'd hold your Bible in the air, and they'd say like, you know, John 5:10, and you had to like flip through it, and you'd find it, and then yeah. And then you would just memorize it and then go say it to a counselor and then move on to the next one. And I think one week I memorized like 130 some verses.
That's really good.
Like, it's just really, really ridiculous. But I mean, summer camps were so crazy because it was just, they would exhaust you. And then every night you had like these altar calls and stuff like that. And I remember working at a camp in the Midwest that actually part of the camp was like a conversion therapy camp, which I didn't know until I got there. Shit. But I was a counselor, and I just remember having to measure girls like shorts because, you know, to make sure that they could wear it. Like when they first got there, it's like, okay, we have to go through your bags. And you know, you're just doing, and you're doing things, and it's like a little pice of you is dying.
It was so like fucked up. There was always that slut with the short arms who got away with the shortest shorts.
Right. It was so, and I'm tall, so like anytime I wear shorts anyway, unless they're like super long, they just look short because I have super long legs. And so it was just horrible. And I just remember, like having to deal with that, and if you had any type of curves anywhere, anything, you know, basically you needed to wear a t-shirt and sweatpants. And I remember walking around the camp one night and started seeing these signs for like pray the gay away, or it was Adam and Eve, not Adam and Steve. And I'm like, where the fuck am I? Like, what am I doing?
That's a joke that never gets old.
Yeah. And I realized I was on like the conversion side of and I was like, I never want to be here ever again. And then I didn't think I really participated in anything else after I found that out. The altar calls were just so like emotionally manipulative, you know,
and draining.
And draining. I mean, every night it's like a 5-hour thing. And you're there and you got to have your hands up and you got to fall out and got to do all this stuff. And it's just, you know, a lot.
Yeah.
You got to get saved every night. I joke around with my brother because I tell him, I'm like, you literally got saved every single time. Anytime there was an altar call, you got saved. Just so you know that.
Is your brother older or younger?
He's younger than me.
Okay.
Well, that's exactly how the camps were for us too. Like I went to like 3 years of like Awana camp, you know, in junior high school range. And then there was a family from our church that the father was a pastor, but he was always kind of like sort of with the church or in between churches. There's like a whole group of people that sort of just live between the lines in that like ministry environment where they somehow like leech money out of these churches, but never actually like really commit to one. It's very strange. Yeah.
I picked the wrong career path for goddamn sure.
Right.
They're almost like traveling pastors or like the traveling missionaries and stuff that would like come get their special offerings and maybe do a series for like 3 weeks, but then, you know, you never saw them again.
They're like revival pastors.
That's a good business model.
And some of them were out of their minds. Like there was a guy that just showed up and like parked his camper at our school during the summertime.
Was this Gary Busey?
Right. He was like Gary Busey. He was a lunatic. I was cutting the lawn at the school in the summertime. That was like a part-time job thing that I did one year. And I remember like he kept bothering me. I'm like trying to get the lawn cut so I can leave. And he kept coming out and like trying to talk to me and stuff. And then he had me into his camper to like eat cake and ice cream, which is
I don't like where this is going.
No one knows who this guy is.
No, that's so creepy.
Yeah,
Did he give you? He was like kept holding up like a tattered pair of shorts. He's like, "You look really sweaty. Do you want to wear these and finish mowing the
Do
lawn?"
you need to take a shower?
What's his name? Josh Duggar.
Oh God. He would. I don't know who he was. He was definitely not doing anything at our church. He just kind of like landed there for like a week. But I remember like one of the few things that he said that I remembered is he like gave me cake and ice cream. And then he said, he goes, well, when I'm not fishing for men, I like to fish for fish. Do you know anywhere where I could go fishing? And I was like, it's Michigan. There's lakes there. I got to cut the lawn, dude.
That was the perfect opportunity for a bend over, and I'll show you.
That was a perfect. I fished for boys. I thought that was.
I can't, dude. He was that you.
You might
really
have
escaped something.
Yeah,
serious,
yeah, for real.
Maybe I've just blocked it out.
Yeah, maybe.
Just rocked his fifth wheel a little bit.
I don't know. That's what this show's devolved into, joking about childhood. So,
did you wear, Casey, when you went to Awana, like how did you wear the little uniforms and stuff? Did you get to the point where you were like too cool for it, so you left it like unbuttoned, or like did it quite do it all the way?
I don't think we ever had uniforms. Like I
showed
didn't.
up as cleavage.
I kind of got into it late. I was doing like the junior varsity one and then the high school version of it, whatever that was. But my sister did the more regimented, like younger kids. But I don't know that they ever had uniforms. They might have had like a vest. Was that like a thing, like the Cubbies?
Yeah,
or whatever?
the little kid. Yeah, they had vests, and then as you got older, I remember we had like a shirt with a little like ribbon thing, and you had all your whatever stuff you had to do.
It was like trying to knock off the scouts.
Oh yeah, 100%. That's what it was.
Yeah. So, all right, what did you do after? So you did high school. You did this camp, right? Like you got disillusioned by the camp when you realized it had to do with conversion therapy. So already at that point, I'm guessing that seems like high school. You can clarify, but you were not, because I mean, Casey and I were all in on this. Yeah, it's wrong to be gay. We can definitely fix that for you if you want us to. But that wasn't sitting right with you already.
No, I was never really all in, honestly. I think once I kind of got to middle school and stuff, I did it because I had to. And I did it because I thought it was the right thing to do. And also there was this part of me that was genuinely petrified of going to hell, even though I knew I didn't really believe it the same way everybody else did. And I remember you guys talking about how you would just feel like you're trying so hard and somehow you're just not getting it. Like I'm standing there and I have my arms up and I'm closing my eyes, I'm singing my heart out and I feel nothing. I'm like, well, I'm obviously a sociopath, like this is what you're thinking because people are like crying or whatever around you. And you're just like, am I doing something wrong? But even though I felt that way, I stayed in it because I thought I had to. And I thought like, this is what, I didn't want my parents to be mad at me or disappointed or whatever. So actually I ended up going to master's commission after high school.
You hit like everything. You hit like every point.
I don't know why.
It's incredible that you've literally landed on everything we've talked. You are basically the growing.
Your Cubbies vest is just you look like a 5-star general. I bet.
I know. I know, y'all, and I don't even know. There was no point in me that wanted to go. I literally the first day there, we're sitting in this church service, and like your parents are getting ready to leave because it was like the end of the weekend, and I'm just sobbing. I am absolutely just sobbing because I didn't want to be there. And I'm just like, this is a terrible mistake. I got kicked out. So no surprise.
What'd you do? Voice your opinion about something?
I voiced a lot of opinions. I was in the Midwest. I was in Illinois, and it just, I mean, it's just a different type of people from the East Coast. You know, I grew up in Jersey mostly, and then in NEPA and Scranton area and stuff, and it just, they didn't like me, I didn't like them, and I was never gonna be like quiet and humble and meek, you know. I felt like I was always seen as like the opposite of like the Proverbs 30 woman or whatever. Like everything in there, it would be like, oh, be this, and I was like, this is definitely what I am.
You're not dyeing shirts. You're not taking them to the market. Like, what are you doing?
Yeah, no, I'm not doing any of this. And I think once I was there, that's when I actually made the decision, like, I'm leaving. Like, I'm done with this. We studied Berean when we were there, and that was the only part that I liked. I loved that because
what is that?
It's so now I don't know how accurate everything in this thing was, but it's the curriculum, and you really deep dive a study of the history of the Bible, and where you're reading biblical events, and then also it gives you like the history of like what actually was happening. And I love just researching and finding out things that like, oh, this guy was like a real dude, you know, and this person was like a real person and stuff. But even in that, I still was like, I can help people, and I don't have to go down this path. Like I really battled with, can I be a good person and not necessarily be a Christian? And so I think those like 2 years that I was there,
keep going.
That's what I was, you know, battling with, was trying to figure that out. And I think that's why I stayed so long, because I didn't want to be considered a bad person. And that's how they, you know, I mean, basically it was like a, you know, fear tactics all the time. Well, you know, if you turn your back on God, you're going to hell. And that means somehow like you're going to go murder people. And I was like, there has to be somewhere in the middle where like, I maybe don't go to church every Sunday, but I'm also not a murderer. Like, can we have something in it?
They have a way of decentralizing that conversation to say something like, it's not all about being a good person, you know? Like, of course there are good people out in the world who have, you know, that I haven't accepted Jesus Christ as a personal Lord and Savior. They're doing some good stuff, but you know, as Paul says, it's all filthy rags and worthless unless you accept. It's like, okay, get the fuck out of my face.
Ours is more like, there are no good people. What are you talking about?
Yeah.
Are they a really good person?
Yeah. Well, how do you define good?
You know,
yeah.
You don't know if they're doing behind closed doors.
None of us
are doing nothing.
Christ's blood makes us like, oh. Okay.
Was the Master's Commission the chapter that you were a part of, was it similar to like the other ones that we've heard about, where it's like a big church and they have like a house and stuff? So it's all live on campus sort of thing.
Yeah. So ours was one of the really big ones. There was about like a top 3 masters that got really, really big at one point. And so we had actually dorms. And then if you couldn't afford the dorms, you could live with like a family in the church and stuff. And there were so many crazy stories about some of these church people that, you know, these 18, 19-year-olds had to live with. And
I bet that shit was weird.
Oh God, it was so weird. And I mean, basically we were slave labor.
I was going to say, if you can't afford the dorms,
the bone. Like, you did, anytime the church did anything, you did it, you know. You were their labor, you ran everything. You're always exhausted and tired, and, you know, you're doing it for the good of the Lord, and you're serving his community and stuff. And it just was like, and I remember they used to always try to tell us, well, this is what college is going to be like. I went to college, it's nothing like that. Like, nobody cares. If you're not there, nobody cares. Like,
dude,
I had surgery at one point, and they literally were like, you need to get up and come work. And I was like, I can't come work. And it was, you know, and I remember hearing those things where it's like, the reason that you're sick is because you have unchecked sin in your life. Well, like, that shit fucked me up for a long time. Like, that one line was just I was like, this is crazy.
Yeah.
There is a part of that stuff that you wonder, like, there's some things that I think happen naturally, and there's not necessarily like nefarious motives behind stuff, you know, like the stuff like with camp. Cause I mean, that was my experience too, is like, they just run you into the ground during the day, and then you go to these big meetings and altar calls, and they last for hours, and you're exhausted. Like you're falling
exhausted.
asleep.
You're still, yeah.
Like you're crying for no reason because you're just dead, And like, I think a lot of that was just, dude, keep the kids busy or else they get into trouble sort of thing, in that setting. But it worked in the same way. Like something like Master's Commission, you kind of wonder, like, did they understand? I mean, that's a classic like cult control tactic is, you keep people exhausted, you keep them hungry, you use every spare second of their time, and they're easy to control, like they don't have the time to sit around and think about what doesn't make sense about the rules and stuff like that. So being that you moved a lot, you switched schools and things like that, did you have like some close friends that you went into like something like Master's Commission? Did you have like some close friends that went there with you, or were you kind of like, doing it on your own? I did,
actually. So my best friend from when I was 4, she also was an Army brat too. So both of us multiple times would end up coming back to like the small Christian school. And she actually introduced me to Masters because she lived in the Midwest, and like they came to her church, I think, did a human video, danced to some terrible song, and she wanted to go. So her and a couple other close friends that we had all went, but they went right after high school. I went to college first for a year, and then I went. So when I got there, I had, friends and stuff like that were already there. And even still, it was terrible.
Yeah, you had tasted freedom.
Yeah.
That's a bold move, leaving college to go to Master's Commission.
Well, I think I ran into kind of what a lot of us kids that grew up like we did, where your parents are kind of like, well, if I'm going to pay for you to go to school, I'm going to pick where you're going to go. And that's kind of what was happening. So it wasn't like I really wanted to go there, but I didn't feel like I could at that time support myself,
Sure, yeah.
and go somewhere else. So I ended up there.
Did you end up going? Explain the human videos.
Human centipede videos? Come on.
Oh my God. So actually tonight I was watching this movie called Tusk. And my friend said it's definitely the human centipede. And I was like, are we talking 1, 2, or 3 though? Because I need.
Yeah, I love.
I'm glad you know what that is. I didn't finish it yet.
Oh, it's so good.
It's a wreck. Sam, have you watched it?
I don't know what this is. I'm waiting for an explanation.
Oh God,
it's a Kevin Smith movie.
That means nothing to me. Elaborate.
Like Clerks.
It's a horror.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, and it's about a guy who's like a
radio
what human
shock
centipede
jock.
Is?
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Think about that, but just a walrus, not a human, but a walrus.
It's so good.
I don't. I
need you to watch it.
Is this on Netflix?
Amazon Prime, maybe?
Yeah, it's floating around somewhere. I think it is on Prime, actually. That one and Red State are both really good. Another Kevin Smith one.
Okay.
So a human video basically is you take like a Christian song and basically make like a music video that either goes along kind of with like the lyrics of the song, or sometimes they'll just make up a whole other scenario and it like plays to the music. So you're not actually dancing really. Mostly it's just you kind of acting out. Yes, it is. It is mostly just acting out these like movements or different things, the you're at the party and so you get in a car with somebody and drunk driving happens or whatever. And it's like, somebody playing in the background, Michael W. Smith or whatever, and
I know these. Yeah.
Yes.
People come back. Then there's like the afterlife fight between.
Yeah. No,
fight sequence at the end.
I don't deserve to be here. Yeah.
Anybody do the Columbine song? Call back.
Oh my God. I don't know. There was always just so many, and they would go into schools and, youth groups and stuff. And there was people that would travel around, to go to different places and do it and everything. They used to make us work at Ziglar's, conferences.
What? How does that tie in? Do you know who Zig Ziglar is, Sam? He's
don't.
He's like a sales trainer, like an old timey motivational speaker and sales trainer.
First of all, this man was so old. I was calling him Ziggy. I had never even heard of him. All I knew is I was like, we got rented out for like a weekend. So basically, they would give the church an undisclosed amount of money, and we would go work these conferences for like a weekend and stuff. So, and we'd be, you know, at the merch table or showing people to their seats or, you know, cleaning bathrooms, doing literally anything and everything at these conferences. And we didn't see anything from that. You know, you're slaving away for a whole weekend, not sleeping. And then the church got some amount of money and that was it.
Well, and there was no Christian tie-in there, was there?
I didn't see it. You know, I just heard a lot about servant leadership and stuff like that, you know, so.
Oh, a lot of good opportunities to show people the love of Christ through your servitude.
Zig Ziglar's got a bunch of those like cheesy quotes that you see on posters in like sales conference rooms and stuff. It's like,
okay,
if you keep on doing what you're doing, you're going to keep on getting what you get.
Okay. Yeah. That, very familiar.
But it was very weird, you know, and we're selling these like cassette tapes and DVD things. And I mean, the stuff was expensive and like people, can you hear her in the background?
Nope.
Okay. No. People were spending thousands of dollars on the stuff and it was people who didn't have the money to do that. You know what I mean? And it's like people are giving up all their money because this guy is telling them that this is the way to success. And, you know, $8,000 so you can have this whatever stuff. And it was so much money. And I thought it was just so ridiculous. It was really, really sad, you know?
Yeah, it's awful. It's like, it's so predatory.
That's my favorite detail of the Masters Commission saga that continues. That's so funny. Yeah. It is funny that like the tie-in is in that it's the exact same as like prosperity gospel stuff.
Yeah.
It's like the same pitch. It's the same timeshare presentation, but with like different key points. You know, we're not talking about like, you know, financial security through godly stewardship or something like that. We're talking about like striking out as an entrepreneur and there's a business within everyone and blah, blah, blah. Same.
Right. And then it's just you know, I feel like that kind of goes with the missionary stuff. You know, you have these people who don't have money to do this stuff and you're basically guilting them into spending all their money on something. And it's just like, I remember being at Acquire the Fire and I was going to go on this missions trip and they're like, you know, here you can take this little class on, you know, ways to like raise money to go and stuff like that. And it was just so ridiculous and so privileged. And, you know, it was like you have to pay $8,000 to go help poor people in some country where to me, that just seemed like an extremely large amount of money to go do whatever. And then they're like, you know, ask your church for money instead of Christmas gifts. Tell your family that you want money for your missions trip. You know, write letters to people and ask them for money. It's like, well, what if everybody I know is poor? Like who was doing this? And it's just, you know, you're not helping people actually learn how to be responsible and maybe like save 10% of their money every month or do something like that. You know, you're just ripping people off and they believe you like we're from Masters Commission working this conference. So they think we're like these good Christian people. And we're telling you to basically, you know, well, sell your car so you can afford to pay for whatever series to learn how to like get more money.
Oh my God, that is so awful. I remember having to raise money for the one missions trip. I went on 2 missions trip, but I think one was like cheap enough where I had to raise money for it because it was a domestic missions trip, inner city. Let's be honest, it's inner city. But
and
the other one was
seem as less than, you know, that wasn't as
they were
as, like,
yeah. I definitely remember because after you have to do your debrief in front of church, I definitely remember being like, look, at first I didn't really want to do whatever it was that I was doing, and then I did, and you know, I think I got more out of it than the people that I was even serving
every time. Well, that's a great line.
Every time. I remember being like paired up with people that I didn't know well or not like. I just didn't know them. I didn't really. When you go on a mission trip with your youth group, like you have an idea of the kind of which people you want to hang out with and be grouped up with.
Yeah.
They love to just smash that to pieces and put you with you hate. People you don't really know.
Yeah.
And it was like, well, at first I was like, I don't know about this. And then it was a really good opportunity. And I built some great relationships that absolutely didn't last because they never fucking do. Like, tell people how great it was. And then you stop being friends. Like the next week at youth group, you see them. You're like, hey, we're real close now, right? Oh, that person's ignoring me. I'm back to being a weirdo. No one else.
Dude, my dad would get so angry about the missions trip fundraising because it was like the same people that would do it every year. It was like their routine to go on a missions trip every summer or whatever. And they'd go to like Costa Rica for 3 weeks and do who knows what, sweep the church and then hang out at the beach for the rest of the time or something. And
stop sweeping the dirt floor. It's not getting.
And sometimes, like, I went to Morocco once and that's probably one of my favorite places ever that I've ever been. It was beautiful. The people were beautiful. The food is amazing. I ate anything I could get my hands on. We did nothing. I literally every day was like, why are we here? Besides me hanging out in a desert, trying to learn Arabic and eat. Like, we spent a lot of money to come here and be here for 2 weeks. And what did we do? What was the point of this? Nothing.
We did the same thing in Mexico. There was we didn't do anything. We went there to host like basketball camps, and I think we did one the whole week because that
story is hilarious.
It's so good.
So good.
I don't remember if I told the end piece of that story. Did I talk about the Golden Corral fiasco?
Was that when you guys all got food poisoning, or just you hadn't eaten normal food for a while?
Yeah, I think I told it. We don't need to revisit that.
We had one where we were coming back from somewhere, and we were at like Shoney's or something, and they had like a mussel or clam, and we decided to have
mussels.
like a little contest and see like who could eat the most like mussels or clams or whatever it was. And we got sick on the way home, from like so sick. It figures, right? But it was just like we came back from somewhere not being able to eat for a while, and then we're all eating this buffet seafood in like Wisconsin or whatever.
Oh my God. I just got a memory from we'll move on to hear a little bit more about you. I have to bring this up.
Did you eat a big plate of barnacles at Shoney's?
I didn't. I don't even know what Shoney's is. I don't think they got those in New England. But were you guys familiar with the 30-hour famines?
Yes.
What?
That shit was fucking whack. That's so dumb.
People paid you not to eat. Yeah. Oh, I'll pay for 2 hours.
This is like pay me $1 every time I walk around the high school track sort of thing.
Yes.
Yeah. So it'd be like a lock-in type thing, right? You get locked into the youth group gym. You don't eat for 30 hours and have water and shit, but the point is to, you raise money for people who can't eat, I guess, and then you pretend like you know how hard it is after you're done.
Yeah.
Dude, so if they played it up, like if it was more than just not eating, it'd be kind of cool. Like if they filled the church sanctuary with grasshoppers and, everybody got boils or something like that. Like we do like a real like Exodus plagues sort of lock in.
Goodness. And if they would have told you can't sleep either, like that would have been terrible.
I think that's the next Squid Games. That's the next Squid Games right there.
I'm hungry.
Lock people in and you just give them all the plagues that were afflicted on Egypt. That's a fucking wild Netflix premise right there.
And on the 7th day, the Lord hardened Pharaoh's heart, and they were cursed with mussels from Shoney's.
No, 30 hour. I will shout out my youth pastor. He did not do a second one. I remember asking him specifically. I was like, "Hey, what are we gonna do one of those?" Like, you like the idea of doing those things. As a kid in youth group, you're like, "I just want to do anything that'll get me out of my house."
Yes,
the homeschool kid. Like, so I remember asking him, like, are we gonna do that again? And he's like, I don't think so. I was like, oh, how come? And he was very like, we did it. I just don't know if they're like that great. I think there's some issues with it. And I was like, okay. I didn't really get into it, but he was like a fresh out of college youth pastor. I think he was just trying to set up all the events. And after he did it, I'll shout him out for realizing that those aren't great ideas. And
he was just like, I get low blood pressure when I don't, or low blood sugar when I don't eat, and it makes me cranky.
Yeah,
that's right.
I mean, it was just so crazy though, like how many, like you do all this stuff and it just, it's terrible, but because you have no other friends and like no other social outlet, you gladly go along with anything, like any lock-in or retreat or anything I could do, I would always go just so I didn't have to be home.
Yeah, I got a rough fundraiser that we did when I was like a freshman or something like that. We had a slave auction.
Shut the fuck up.
That's what they called it. And like all of the high school kids like went up on stage and they would auction them off to people in the congregation. Like they would.
Oh, and you would like have to go like mow people's lawns or clean out their attics and stuff like that.
Yeah, I had to like tear down a shed.
Oh my God.
But we only did that. Well, I think they had done it yearly up to that point, but they only did one while I was involved.
That's
probably wouldn't play well today.
Probably not. Probably
not really. Okay, Ever. So after you did masters for a little bit, and then did you go back to college, or is that when you joined the military?
That's when I joined the military. Yeah.
Okay. And you did it. You said you did an 8-year stint in that. How was your experience with that?
Pretty good. I was a gunner's mate in the Navy, so I was on an aircraft carrier. I did a couple deployments and stuff. Worked with weapons. Trained people on how to use them. My last couple years, I was a naval military training instructor, and so basically had kids because they were 18 to 21 years old, fresh out of boot camp, and kind of just teaching them how to become better sailors and a good sailor and stuff. So I did that after leaving masters, so that was a completely different environment, and very exciting. And it was just probably the first adult freedom experience I had where I could just like do whatever. And so I feel like I spent so much time trying to figure out like who I was and what I actually really liked and didn't like, and not actually what I could like and couldn't like and stuff like that. But yeah, so I did the Navy thing, and I had my daughter while I was in, got married, got divorced. So very military,
You did it all. You've done all of it, Amber. You've done all the things everywhere. Tried it out once. Hey, it wasn't for you.
No, it wasn't for me. It wasn't for me. Some of the stuff I really forgot about until I would hear you guys talking about it, and I was like, oh my God, I totally forgot about that horrific thing that,
It really is weird how like you get like those flashes all of a sudden, like you hear somebody tell a story and you're like, oh man, I haven't thought about that in forever, like, oh, I went to a Pentecostal church one time and had no idea what was going on, but
oh my goodness.
So like Master's Commission was kind of the end of your Christianity, like your time as a Christian, like did you leave Christianity like quietly, subtly, or did you kind of like say, hey, I'm out?
No, I was bitter and mad and and hated everything to do with it. I was very loud about it. And because I was really hurt, it left me with a lot of wounds that it took a really long time and therapy to kind of patch all those things, like you have this stuff that is so instilled in you with like purity culture, and you have to do this and you have to do that, and you can't do this, you can't do that, and you're just trying to figure out who you are. And I have a disease called Little syndrome, which is I have low potassium and really high blood pressure, And so there's a lot of times I look back that I was sick when I was little, and there's actually something really wrong with me. And, there's so many times that I heard, you're not praying hard enough. You're not close enough to God. There's a sin is taking hold in your life. There's a foothold in there somewhere. Because if you were living your life this way or that way, you wouldn't be sick. So, if somebody gets cancer, they have unchecked sin or whatever. And so you have all this stuff that you have to kind of like, I guess they call it deconstruct, now, and one by one kind of go through all those things. So I was very angry and loud about it. And then, it was like, oh, I'm going to be an atheist or whatever. And then I kind of got to the point where I just was like, all right, I'm not mad anymore, because I think that there are genuinely people who believe in a lot of this craziness. And I think one of you guys said it when you were talking about your parents. Like I remember my mom anointing my head with oil in the middle of the night, to like pray for us. And yeah, that's crazy and super weird. And when I tell people who didn't grow up the way we did about it, they look at me like I'm insane. But it's like, this woman loved me so much that she was up at 2:00 in the morning praying for me, because she genuinely believed I was going to go to hell because I, was not living my life right, and so they put you in these schools and churches because they think that it's really going to like be good for you and save your soul. Me and my mom are pretty close, and she's actually gotten out of the church a lot herself as well. But, I tell her about some of this stuff, and she's like, so much of it she didn't realize of like what we kind of went through with like the youth groups and different things. And I'll talk to her about it, and she's like, I know I signed you up for that, and I know I dropped you off and you went, but I had no idea what the whole thing entailed. I went to True Love Waits. I don't know if you guys had the pleasure.
Oh,
you literally did everything.
Like,
try to see if it's like everything. Oh,
Yeah.
well, is this it? Is this the thing I need? No,
if
that's
this was
not.
evangelical
Next thing.
bingo, you'd be taking home the
I
farm.
would totally get it. And I remember being there, and it was like, I think maybe like a Friday, Saturday, Sunday thing. At the end of it, you got married to Jesus, which wasn't even the worst part about it.
Stop.
I did not want to. Like, this was probably one of the things I protested the most. And they gave you like this ring and all this stuff, and they made us watch this video. Now, I don't know how edited or genuine this video was, but we had to watch a video of a baby being aborted. And I literally, I was so traumatized. I mean, when I say there wasn't a dry eye, like every single kid in this church is sobbing. And I remember dreaming about this video for months. Like, I was really, really fucked up after watching that. And I was like telling my mom about it recently, because I had her listen to you guys' podcasts and stuff, and like we'll be laughing about it. And she was like, I had no idea they showed you that. Like, none. She said, I would have never had you go to that, and stuff.
That's
and
so
I'm
awful.
like, that was probably one of the worst. That, and I'm going to add another one, guys. The Right to Life marches in DC.
Yeah. Yeah.
You went to DC for it.
Oh,
Dang.
yeah.
What's wild about what they do with what evangelicals do about abortion is like they call the left the abortion, and they act like everyone loves it. Like they have an abortion party and it's amazing, and they make a cake and fucking give you presents and shit like that. And it's like, you're not really going to find many people. Like, you could find it, certainly. You could go to the extreme, what you're looking for. But you don't really find people who are celebrating abortions. You're finding people who are reluctantly getting them because that's not the ideal choice for a lot of people. Or it's like there are plenty of people who are just like, oh, I got pregnant, I guess I'll get an abortion. And of course that's the thing. But for the most part, like what evangelicals are pretending exists, which are people like, oh, I can't wait to get another abortion. And like, that's not how this works and how it looks. And it's like
at all.
That's what's so frustrating and misleading about the way we were presented. Like, so to make you watch a video of something an abortion is like people are doing that. Like, look, the world loves these things. We're going to show you how bad they are. It's like, no one thinks they're great. Nobody.
No,
Even
nobody
people who
does.
believe that you should be able to get one and have access to it think that that's an amazing thing that they want to watch a video of. No one's
And if you
there.
didn't take away everything to help people not get to that point, you know, if you taught sex education and people and kids were able, and I say kids, you know, middle school, high school, are able to learn how to protect themselves properly, not get pregnant, not get STDs, not be in abusive relationships, learn healthy sex practices, you then take away the need for abortions. If you have access to affordable birth control and, you know, people live in medical deserts where there's no access to medical care and facilities and different things. So you have people doing things and, you know, risking it all because they don't have access to these things. And so like you're looking at abortion, but I feel like that's the, you know, a byproduct of something that we're not focusing on. If you would teach people how to properly do things, then you wouldn't even need to get to that point. You know, all the places that teach abstinence only have very high STD rates and very high teen pregnancy rates. Mm-hmm. And that's because, you know, kids are still going to do things and now they just don't know how to do it. And teaching a kid about sex doesn't make them go have sex. Like, it's not like you're going to teach people all this stuff and then they're going to be like, yes, today we're going to go try this. You're just going to teach them, and the people who are going to wait, and the people who aren't.
Exactly.
And I think it was like my thoughts on it and the way that I thought it was explained, you know, the policy of like not having sex ed, not handing out condoms and all of this kind of stuff that just makes sense. If you don't want abortions, make birth control available, you know?
Yeah.
But it was like, it wasn't about like, well, if we teach kids about this, then they're going to be more likely to try it. It was about the consequences are there to punish you for doing the things that you're not supposed to do. You're taking away the consequences, and these people.
But you're going to punish somebody for the rest of their life. For something that lasts 2 minutes. You know, like we're going to punish you forever for this, and then they just shun people who, you know, we've all had the girls in school or church who ended up pregnant. I remember we had a pastor's daughter who got pregnant and they made her stand up in front of the church and like apologize.
And
I hate that. I was just so, I didn't understand. And I remember even my mom at the time didn't agree with it because she was like, they should have just like, we don't need to know all this information. But she, you know, they justify it, you know, well, you have to expose sin and do all this stuff. And I'm like, I just feel like some of this stuff is so cruel and mean. Yeah. She already has to deal with the teen pregnancy and not being married and being broke and all that stuff. Like, why now publicly shame her for things like Jesus could have been shaming that lady at the well? You know, he wasn't on the megaphone. He just was like, here, all right, I'll see you later. Like,
yeah. And you have to expose sin. You mean you have to expose that sin? Okay, because we're not making Brother Tom stand up and talk about how he embezzled money from his company and had to do a 6-month stint in jail. You know, like, what about that sin? Does that sin not matter? It's like, wow, you know, finders keepers, you know, but don't.
He didn't sin against his body. Okay, it's different.
The worst
also,
sin.
There's such an irony to that Christians being like, there's that. Oh my God, a life is beautiful. We don't want abortions. Like being pregnant, having a child, bringing a child in this world, children are beautiful. They're a gift from God. But then it's just like also simultaneously the punishment for having sex. And now it's like a burden to you for the rest of your life. Like, it's such a mixed message. It's not, it's a consequence for your actions, but then it's like supposedly also supposed to be something wonderful and beautiful. And then you're stuck trying to like figure out how to navigate that mix of teenage.
Yeah. And you can't believe in life on one hand and then, you know, kind of like death on the other. I remember being actually in college before I went to master's, and I went to both universities that I graduated from were Jesuit, Catholic. So I was at this like Bible study thing, and the nun who was talking about it, she said, you can't be pro-life and pro-death at the same time. And I remember thinking she was right. And it took me the opposite way, because I went from thinking abortion was completely wrong to now saying, okay, well, now I agree with this. And now I don't agree with the death penalty. I went the total opposite way of like whatever way she was saying. And I was like, you're right. I can't be pro-life and then also pro-death penalty. So like, I'm just like, and in my head, I would think about that all the time. It's like, some of the stuff is so backwards and so mixed up. And if I'm going to believe that all life is sacred and believe in helping people, then I have to believe in helping everybody, whether that's gay people or trans people or people I don't agree with their lifestyle. Who cares? If somebody needs help, that's what I thought we were supposed to be about and be helping people with. And that's what being a good person is being able to serve your community and helping people in need. And it doesn't really matter what you want to do in your bedroom. It doesn't matter if you had, kids out of wedlock or if you're divorced or whatever. And all these little hangups that we have to gatekeep people are just used to gatekeep a certain type of people who can keep up facades and things like that and have the ability to do that. And then us regular people just kind of are, shit out of luck, because you're never going to live up to that standard, ever.
Yeah, they have this. They'll talk about it being everything being a heart issue, right? Oh, it's a heart. Yeah. But they're not. They're interested in behavior modification through and through. Like, it's like they'll tell you on one hand that the heart is corrupt, or that like, well, without giving your life to Christ, that it's all meaningless. That your heart isn't good, or that, so like even if you're doing good things, that's a problem. But then when you have people who are doing bad things, they're like, or what they consider to be bad, now the actions are the problem. It's not about the heart. And they're like, well, you wouldn't be doing that if your heart was in the right place. But then all you have to do is modify your behavior, which is what a lot of people do on a Sunday morning. They modify their behavior, and then they go, well, your actions now represent your heart. Obviously we can, they just apply it kind of frivolously.
They do
when they want your actions to be indicative of your heart. Now that they get to go, I like the way this guy lives his life. He says the right things, and he shows up to church on Sunday, and so therefore his actions are reflective of his heart. But then the second you do something they don't like or think the wrong thing, if you think the wrong thing but your actions are doing what they want, it's like, now there's a problem. There's a disconnect. Your message isn't right. Therefore, they're concerned about the beliefs and
and it's hard. And I think people end up very depressed and anxious because you're trying to basically be perfect.
Yeah, you can't live up to this stuff,
and you can't. And I just remember being so sad sometimes because I was like, I can't do this. Like, I'm never gonna be whatever this person is that they want me to be, and so I'm just shit out of luck. Like, I don't know, where does that leave me? What am I gonna do? Because people are mad at you because I'm not coming to church in church shoes and a skirt. So somehow my heart's wrong because I want to wear a t-shirt and jeans, or and it's all these stupid little tiny things that to me got in the way of like, are we actually supposed to be nice and love people, or are you worried about like what I have on today?
I think that's one of the things too, is like the further you get away from it and the less it stings you personally, like the stuff that you experienced and went through and are now trying to sort out, the more you start to look at it and go, this is like a hallmark of fundamentalism rather than necessarily like Christianity. Like fundamentalism is a rigid ideology that no one can live up to. I mean, that's part of like what the problem is with it. And I think when you start looking at people like parents, family members, people within the church that, I mean, it's easy to look at some of these issues and just assume that like everybody in that building is is pro-life, and everybody in that building is anti-gay and all that stuff. And I think a lot of people within Christianity, within the church that are still part of it, are somewhat like handcuffed by that fundamentalism. You think about like stuff like, you talk about like your mom anointing your head with oil. Like, she thought she was doing a good thing. She probably also felt a little silly doing that. but she was like trying to live up to the standard. Like that was told, that was expressed as like, this is an important thing that you need to do for your kid. And you're like, I feel awkward, but okay, if it's good for them, I'll do it. And I think there's a lot of people within the church, that they're going through the motions on some of this stuff because that's the direction the current's pulling, but it doesn't mean that they're not conflicted about some of this stuff. And I think that's where, like people have to like give these people the room to change and to evolve and to do better, and I think that over time, a lot of them do. I mean, we all did, right?
Right. And you have to give people grace. And when you're in it, you're in it. You're living it. You're going to school. That's all your friends. You're at church 3 times a week. Like that's the only people that you're around, and you don't see anything wrong with it. So it ends up, it's very cult-like, if you watch any type of like cult documentary and stuff, so much of what we talk about is the structure is structured the same way, to where they keep you isolated from anything in the outside world, keep you in a bubble, keep you exhausted, keep you working hard, keeping you needing these people for your basic things. And then they're kind of controlling everything. I remember watching like Waco or something, and the way the girls were dressing in there, I literally was like, when I used to go to school at like these Bob Jones schools, the teachers used to look just like that. Like it looked, and they had the very like long dresses with like up to here buttoned, and I was like,
that weird like pompadour hairdo.
They had the weird hair and everything. I was like, why? You guys look exactly the same as this. And then it's just so crazy, but you keep, and then those people, it's hard for them to see anything outside of that because they don't know anything. And you do have to give people grace and room to kind of try to get out of that and figure it out on their own and stuff. And luckily I was able to read a lot. So I think that partly is why I maybe was never invested. The first book that I loved to read was Dracula. So obviously I was on a completely different path than everyone else. But I feel bad for other kids who were never allowed to just pick up a secular book or poems or anything to kind of see what the outside world was like. Because I remember being at Masters, and the people were so confused as to how I could have had drink and had sex and smoked weed and my life wasn't a disaster. And I was like, there's room in between, guys. Like, you always hear the extreme about, well, you have a sip of alcohol, your life's going to fall apart. I was like, no, there was nothing wrong with my life. I wasn't down, and like I was going to college. I had great grades. I partied with my friends on the weekends. Like everything was fine. And they had to like reconcile this. Well, I thought if you like smoked weed once, you were just, your life was on this never ending track and you're going to end up being a homeless person riding a train. And and people have such extreme views. And it's like, no, you're just a normal, regular person doing normal, regular people things. Like doing this one thing isn't going to totally take you out,
You were a real problem in that place. I can tell.
Oh God. They could not. Yeah.
Okay.
I had a lot of self-awareness as a kid, and probably because I moved around so much, I was able to kind of watch people and pick up different things. So I knew what I liked and I knew what I didn't like. And I think having that strong personality, definitely, I butted heads with adults in the church constantly. Nobody wanted their kids to hang out with me. That was a sinner.
Great. All right. You've mentioned a few buzzwords that I got to pin you down on. You mentioned serial killers earlier. You brought up cults a couple of times. You into all this same macabre, terrible stuff that I am?
Yes, I am. I love it.
It's awesome.
I absolutely love it. Obviously, I was watching Tusk earlier today. So I mean that.
There's a reason we clicked.
Yeah, definitely.
So being that you're a podcast fan, I'm always interested, like, what are your favorite podcasts? So what are your like weekly go-tos?
So Lore actually got me into podcasts. So that was probably my first one that I really listened to and loved. And I love True Crime Garage because they talk about crimes and then also they drink beer, which I'm here for.
Is that the one with the captain?
Yes. And me
Okay.
and the captain have chatted a couple times. He's so nice. And I love Fruit Loops, which does the serial killers of color and stuff. And I don't know if you've watched or listened to 1619, which, you know, the conservatives hate because they feel like it's trying. This was 1619 podcast came out before people started talking about critical race theory. And it basically dives into a lot of the history of the U.S.
Okay.
And it's really, really good, though. I think it's maybe only 5 episodes and stuff. So you guys should definitely check that one out. I love Dateline, the classic, just, you know, I'll be
like
in the kitchen
Chris
making
Hansen
dinner and
stuff.
I'm like, yes. I'm like, oh my God, girl, what? She poisoned him? No. You know?
Chris Hansen has done a couple of like random podcasts lately with comedians that I listen to. And he is an interesting guy. And he is like all in on the To Catch a Predator stuff.
Yeah.
That is his passion project. He likes looking them in the face and watching them realize their world is over.
Yeah.
He does. There was one guy on a Dateline episode that he was like, and if you remember, he was also on To Catch a Predator. I was like, ooh, girl, you don't have to blow up this spot like that.
He's got a lot of merit badges too. He's like the Amber of the pervert world.
I know, it's so fun. I never thought that I had, you know, like done all of these like very Christian things. And then as I was like listening to you guys, and then when I was listening to Gangster Capitalism and stuff, I was like, God, I really was just even my brother, he's like, you were all in.
Yeah.
Like, you were in there deep. He was like,
it.
you even went to masters, and I was like, and I don't even know why, guys. Like, I can't.
Yeah, like the only thing left for you to do is like, I mean, unless you've already been to a Promise Keepers meeting, like maybe be an usher or something. You definitely have the most accolades of anyone that I've ever talked to.
Because I have that perfectionist thing from, I think, you know, Christianity really stuck, and I'm always trying to like meet bullets, you know, somehow get it all under my belt. Or, you know, I thought that if I did all those things, I genuinely thought it would turn me into like a Midwestern housewife Christian mother who like homeschools her like 4 kids and, you know, sings in the choir at church and, you know, bakes muffins on a bake sale. Like, if I could just do all this stuff and kind of get there, then I would be good.
You check all the boxes, you do all the right things, eventually it'll feel right, and the life that you're told you're supposed to want is going to fall into place. It's like, it's right. Wild.
It's like a real classic Christian housewife. You know, the type that would have like gotten addicted to laudanum back in the
100%. 100%. I'm trying to see, like, there's stuff that I've been wondering with, like, how did a lot of our parents get from, you know, free love and the 70s to like the 80s and 90s to making us go to acquire the fire? Like, where you were, you know, and I hear so many stories about, even so on the cult side of it, it's really the same thing, because you had the drug-fueled 60s and 70s and the free love and stuff, and a lot of people either turn to very fundamentalist Christianity or to cults. And it kind of was that same structure maybe that kind of called people, because I'm like, my mom grew up in California, Haight Ashbury and like Jimi Hendrix and Janis Joplin. And I'm like, you were so cool. How did we get to the point where you're like policing my crop top when y'all were just like in the mud naked at Woodstock? Like, what, like, how did we get here?
It is fascinating. That is like
incredible.
That's like the whole Jesus movement thing and all of that. It's all a part of that, you know. And I just think humans are cyclical. Like, when we experience like the peak of one type of experience, like we go for the trough of a different one, you know. And I mean, I guess you can see how it happens. Like, if you were a part of that whole movement and, you know, going nuts in the 60s, and then you watch your friend die of a drug overdose or something like that stuff shifts your perspective. It's hard to see it as fun and pure and stuff like that after you see the ramifications of like, it spits somebody out in a bad shape. But
it's just so crazy. It's like, wow, we came so far, and then it's almost like we came so far and then it kind of like moved women backwards, because it's so much of it was like women's liberation and stuff like that. And then I feel like the Christianity of like the 80s and 90s definitely put us back in the kitchen and back to like, you need to take care of your husband and your family first, and he needs to be the head and you got to be the neck, or whatever like mess that they was like.
So we all have to take a blood oath that we're not going to find our way into some weird concern. We're not going to double back into the same kind of weird shit that they
have you marrying Jesus or marrying your dad, and like so much of it is so, and as women too, because I feel like you guys escaped a lot, because whenever they'd have those talks and it was like they split us up, boys and girls, like our stuff was just a mess.
Women got the short end of that stick pretty clearly. It's there's no contest.
Well, I'm not taking any oaths. I'm like maybe 2 more years away from praying to Ziglar. Well, Amber, it's been so much fun talking to you. Thanks for doing this, man. It's great to meet you.
Oh my gosh, it's great to meet you guys too. Keep doing what you're doing.
We have no intention of quitting yet.
Yeah. Do you think that this will be your full-time job? Like, do you want to go into this where you're it's your income and stuff?
I think because there's a chance that my dad could hear this, I'm going to say, no, I love my job. I would never leave.
And I will take Casey's portion of the money, and absolutely would like to not have to worry about it that much.
Yeah.
It would be pretty cool, though.
It'd be great. But nowhere near there. Where right now we're just enjoying ourselves.
Well, that's good. I'm glad that you guys did it. It takes me back to my childhood and definitely makes me laugh a lot. So, and I want to find like all this old music and stuff, and like, I was like, I need to bust out like a DC Talk CD or something. I gotta.
Oh yeah. Yeah, I throw it on ironically once in a while, and then end up listening to the whole thing, like
the whole CD. You can probably sing the whole thing, right?
I still remember all the words. Like I can sing Supernatural like front to back, that whole album.
Oh my god, that whole album! That I'm telling you, I love that CD. I really did.
That was a good one. I put that one above Jesus.
Yeah, I mean, they were probably the few groups that I felt like were actually talented, because some of that stuff was just not good.
Yeah.
Yeah, mediocrity kind of defined the music scene.
Yeah.
I don't know. They got away with not being as good because they knew there were people who were desperate enough to find something to listen to. It feels like.
Yeah. Oh my god, guys! I totally met Kirk Cameron. I wanted to tell you that.
What?
Wow, you really you
that was not even on the bingo sheet. We're adding squares.
I did. He came to our master's commission, and I was his like little helper, and I really didn't know who he was. And all the girls were like so excited and all this stuff, and I kind of was like, who is he? And then they explained it to me, and I was like, you mean the thing that Leonardo DiCaprio was in? And I didn't pay attention to anybody else, like, in anything else. And because they were like, he's on this show, and like Leonardo DiCaprio's on it. And I was like, why would I know who anybody else is if he was there? But it's crazy.
He's insane.
He's insane.
I haven't checked out any of his like recent projects, but I would not be surprised to find he's putting out videos on like the Protocols of the Elders of Zion or something like that, Illuminati
I'm waiting for him
videos.
to like cross over to like Scientology or something. He is just getting like, we need another like sect for like where he has gone off the
people like him. People who
I'm
make
like,
cool
you're in a
YouTube
whole
videos
world.
about how bananas proof creation. Yeah, I don't.
And they're
There's not a lot of space.
screaming in their basement. And
Dude, can we get a Cameron Liddell ticket for 2024?
Yeah. Oh, shut the fuck up. No, God. Don't speak that evil, man.
oh
You
my
can't
God.
say that.
Oh man, I'm putting it on my vision board.
Yeah, okay. I'm coming to your house to burn that vision.
Just burn it down. We cannot. Because I know that orange man was on somebody's.
Yeah.
Oh man. Well,
Oh.
that being said, everybody, say a prayer for, the Cameron Liddell campaign. And thanks for listening. We will see you next time.